Janet woke up on Sunday morning with the story of the missing medallion on her mind. In haste, she grabbed her laptop, determined to finish typing chapter 2 before anything else that day.
Chapter 2. Clifford, a man deeply entangled in a life of crime, anxiously awaited the arrival of his partners, Ocon and John, in his small, dimly lit living room. With a half-empty bottle of whiskey in hand, he tried to calm his nerves while pacing back and forth. The weight of his past misdeeds made him a pessimist, but he clung to the hope of making serious money and escaping his criminal ways. For most of his 40 years, Clifford had indulged in various criminal activities, but working closely with Ocon and John allowed him to fly under the radar of the law. Yet, despite the relative safety of their partnership, he felt that these petty crimes couldn't provide the wealth he craved for his entire life. Clifford believed that there was someone in his village using diabolical means to thwart his success. He had tried everything to find a breakthrough, even seeking deliverance in churches, but obstacles seemed to block every path to prosperity. However, his fortune seemed to shift when Ocon and John successfully stole the golden medallion. The anticipation of the huge payday filled Clifford's mind, and he dreamed of what he would do with his share of the money. The promise of 5 million naira seemed surreal, but he was determined to make the merchant pay even more. With that amount, he planned to finish building his new house on the outskirts of Abuja, buy a new car, and provide precious gifts for his beloved daughter Angela. She was the love of his life. Yes, he might not have been the best father, but he loved her with all his heart, even more than he ever loved her useless mother. Their marriage had been a result of an unplanned pregnancy, and he felt pressured by her parents to marry her without any genuine affection. He resented her mother, holding her partly responsible for some of the misfortunes in his life. And he had unfortunately taken out his anger on her throughout their 14 years of cohabitation. However, witnessing his daughter Angela grow up into a beautiful young woman had softened his heart and given him a reason to love again. But he couldn't help but feel hurt and angry when Angela didn't reciprocate the love he desired from her, which only fueled his negative reactions. Her mother always exacerbated the situation, making matters worse. He felt that she wanted to come between him and his daughter, as if she craved his affection for herself. He couldn't fathom why she would believe she deserved any affection from him. Hopefully, he will soon remove her from the picture entirely. There was a knock on the door, and with a racing heart, Clifford swung the door open and was faced with the familiar faces of Ocon and John. They entered with a cloth-wrapped object in hand. Clifford wasted no time inquiring about their delay, and they explained the obstacle of police checkpoints that had held them up. Clifford bluntly snatched the wrapped item before Ocon could present it. As the cloth fell away, he was met with the stunning sight of pure gold. The excitement in his eyes was undeniable as he revelled in the prospect of making the white man pay 10 million for this treasure. Listening intently to Ocon's account of their successful heist, Clifford admired their ingenuity and courage. The gas, the disguise as monks, every detail fascinated him. He pondered the secrecy surrounding the gold, wondering how the white man had come upon this hidden treasure. Feeling triumphant, Clifford pulled out a wad of money from his pocket and rewarded Ocon and John for their efforts. The promise of a better tomorrow hung in the air as he declared that by the following day they would all be millionaires. He was alone once again and wanted to be with Angela, his loving daughter. But, as always, his anger and violent tendencies were close at hand. When he called Angela into the room, he unleashed his fury upon her, an act she had grown to expect and endure. His sinister intentions were cut short when his wife intervened, and in a violent outburst, he pushed her to the wall. With a hush, he tried to console his daughter, promising a better life ahead. Pointing to the magnificent gold object on the table, he assured her of all the good things he had pledged. Swiftly, he wrapped up the medallion and concealed it inside the back cover of the old television in the room. Smirking wickedly, he turned back to his daughter, the weight of his sinister intentions hidden behind his smile. The events that followed sent shockwaves through Angela, who had been living a life of emotional torment and physical abuse, resulting in a prolonged muteness. For the first time in years, her voice was heard, as she screamed in anguish over the realization her mum was lying motionless. The pain and trauma she had hidden for so long had finally found its way out, leaving her to confront the horrors of her past. Ocon and John visited a local bar in a remote area of Lube, where rooms were provided for people to rent for various purposes. By 5 p.m, they were already heavily intoxicated and decided to engage the services of some women who were present. In their drunken state, they stumbled into one of the small rooms made of mud and grass. The lady inside welcomed them, knowing that 2 customers meant more money. Ocon, with alcohol on his breath, asked in pidgin English, "How much?" while John tried to keep his balance. The lady quoted a price, but she didn't believe she was worth that much, given her age and the stretch marks on her body. Still, she was grateful for the alcohol in their systems, as it might make the encounter easier to bear. John, with a rough tone, agreed to the price, eager to get it over with. He regretted not staying in their familiar surroundings, where finding their way home afterward would have been easier. The call girl disliked the smell of alcohol and sweat emanating from the men, and wished for the encounter to end quickly. Suddenly, she noticed a cloud of black smoke forming above her, close to the ceiling. It was confusing at first, but the smoke grew darker and more menacing, instilling fear in her. Trying to warn the men, she reached out to the one closest to her, urging them to wait. The other drunk looked up in confusion. The smoke divided itself into 2 thick, black smoky balls and astonishingly pierced into the men's eyes, disappearing within them. In an instant, everything in the room seemed to come to a standstill, but it was the 2 men who stood motionless, staring into nothing. The call girl sensed something ominous in the air, and her instinct screamed for her to escape. Though others might consider her profession degrading, her life still held great value to her. Within seconds, she rushed out of the building, leaving behind the eerie scene that had unfolded before her. The inexplicable event had shaken her to the core, and her survival instincts compelled her to seek safety.